I had £300 a month to get a new car. So instead of leasing something brand new, I bought this, a 2008 Ford Mondeo for just £200. The idea behind that was to see if I would be better off driving an old banger or leasing something brand new. And over the first 12 months, I documented my experiences, what went wrong, what it cost me, and at the end of that 12 months, how much better off was I? But last September, I got made redundant. So no salary, no car allowance, so no £300 a month budget to keep this Mondeo on the road. And what started as a fun experiment turned real very quickly. But somehow, the £200 Mondeo just kept on going. But looking at your comments on the last video, you guys really seem to think that the Jag should be here to stay. So it means we've got to say goodbye to an old friend. Over the last 18 months, we've been through a lot together. Yeah, I've kept it on the road when things have gone wrong. I've also upgraded things to make it feel like a more modern car, to make it a more usable daily. But we've used this car a lot. Yeah, I took this car to Scotland and back in 2 days. I've used it as my daily. I've taken the family on holiday in this car. And of course, it's been the barn's tow car. And do you know what? Over the last 18 months, I've absolutely loved every minute of it. Well, most of the time anyway. And that might be because this car was super cheap to run. Yeah, over that first 12 months, I think it cost me around about £1,300. And that includes buying the car, all of the upgrades and all the things that went wrong. So actually, I walked away with a £2,300 profit from driving this car for a year. Now, of course, I didn't pay any labour charges because I did the work myself in the barn, or I managed to rope in some help from some of my friends. But either way, a £2,300 profit is a great result. But before this car goes to its new owner, we've got some work to do. But first of all, it needs a clean. With me using the Mini to get that thing sold, it means this has been parked up for a little bit. So it's just sat around and it's got really dusty. So we need to wash all of this dirt off the car. And once that's done, I need to give it a good clean inside because, again, it looks like a bomb has gone off in here. And with a quick wash, how good does it look? Oh, it just makes me want to keep this car, but we can't keep them all. So it's time to get this in the barn for one last time to tackle a couple of jobs before this goes on to its new owner. And then we can think about the Jag. I've already started spending on the Jag. Yeah, who'd have thought it? So I need to get this wrapped up and out the door so that we've got a fresh, healthy budget to spend on the Jag. With this going for £700, that would give me £700 to spend on the Jag. We already spent £300 buying it, so it means we've got £400 to spend on that Jag to get it back on the road. And back in the barn, the first thing we've got to tackle is the brakes. But it's not what you think. No, around 6,000 miles ago, I fitted this big brake upgrade from a Volvo XC60. So we've got the twin pot calipers and we've got the 328mm discs. These are M-Tech discs on here, so they are drilled and grooved. And the front and back conversion was around about, I think, £350, £360. And there is absolutely no need to sell this car with this conversion on it. So I'm going to do what any sensible person would do. I'm going to take them off and put standard discs and pads back on, because actually this front conversion will probably fit our little Jag X-Type. So definitely worth keeping hold of these. And who knows, in the future, I may even get another Mondeo. But look, for now, these are coming off and they might find their way onto the Jag. I fitted these because I do a lot of towing. So I thought always best to upgrade the brakes, give us some extra stopping power with the trailer on the back. And B, I always had this thought that I'd end up taking this round a track. Yeah, I wanted to do like cheap car versus race car or something. And look, maybe we'll do that in the future with a different car. But it means that I thought, well, look, let's future-proof ourselves. I was going to do the disc and pads anyway, so I spent a little more. But in the end, I never got around to it. It never happened. So it's time to take these off.
So I'm changing the discs and pads with the added step of swapping the caliper. So it means we need to undo the slide bolts that hold the caliper to the carrier, undo the 18mm bolts on the back of the carrier, and then we can pop the disc off, clamp the hose for the caliper, and then just wind that off the hose and then pop the original standard stuff back on. It's as simple as that.
And so there we go, the smaller standard Mondeo fronts with new discs and pads.
So you can see there's not much of a difference because the standard Mondeo brakes are 300mm. So at 328, it's not much bigger.
But obviously you've got the twin piston calipers to give you that extra stopping power.
With both calipers changed, it's time to bleed the brakes.
And that all looks good. I can't see any bubbles in that. Right, we're almost empty on the reservoir.
We can top it off with some fresh brake fluid and we're good to go.
And with the front's done, it's time to do the same, but on the back. But this time we don't have to change the calipers and we don't have to bleed the brakes. No, this was just uprated discs and pads on the back. So nice and straightforward. We'll swap this out, put new discs and pads back on, and that is the brakes all buttoned up.
And that is one of the most satisfying things I've ever experienced working on a car. Yeah, I don't think I've ever had a grub screw come out that easily. In fact, it's all coming apart nicely because, like I said, I only put this in a few thousand miles ago.
Now, I thought I was being clever because as these pads are only a few thousand miles old, I thought maybe I could just swap the discs over, leave these pads in. They're just M-Tech pads, so they're not uprated on the back. But that's not the case, no. In fact, the caliper is obviously squeezed in enough that I'm going to need to wind the caliper back. To do that, I'm going to need to get the pads out. To do that, I'm going to need to undo these bolts. It means this can't be loose and flopping around. And because I've taken these bolts out, it meant that, yeah, I couldn't get any purchase on it. So I had to wind the bolts back in here. I'm going to tighten them up a little, and then it should let me have a go on these.
And with it all apart and the pads out, it means I can use my right-handed wind back tool to just wind the caliper back. And this is why you need to wind the caliper back, because you can see that the old pads, or the not very old pads, have worn down a little bit, and so they're thinner than the new pads going in. So it means that there's not enough room to fit them in without winding the caliper back. A couple of small but really important things to remember. So because these were some really cheap pads, they didn't come with fresh bolts. So it means that we've got to reuse the ones that we had. So just put a bit of thread lock on there, and also a little bit of silicone grease on the brake pads to stop them squeaking. Now, not on the braking surface, obviously, but just on the little ears where it sits in the pad carrier, and then we should have no squeaking brakes. And one last important job, a liberal spray of brake cleaner to get rid of all the residue and oils off the discs, and also all the grubby, dirty, grimy bits where I've been touching it.
With that swapped, you've got to remember the worst thing about doing brakes. You've worked really hard, you feel great because you got it changed, and then you've got to do it all again on the other side. But we don't need to see that. So I'll go and do the other side. You can sit back and enjoy these lovely ads from YouTube. And with that done, there is another job on this car that I've just been putting off, and it's typical. I've driven it for, 18 months, and at least the last 12 months, it's had that problem. And I've just not sorted it. But now it's going to its new owner, so I'm gonna sort it out and make this car better than it was most of the time I've driven it. And it's a stupid thing that I should have dealt with. So let's get into the car and I'll show you what I mean. So yeah, we can see there the signal is just fluctuating, which is not ideal. But the biggest problem is when we go to the actual radio app itself. I don't even know where it is because it just does. There we go. The radio app. So the radio signal on this car, again, it's just terrible. And that's because it's not fitted with an aerial booster. So to try and kill two birds with one stone, I'm going to fit a DAB antenna splitter. So it means that the DAB signal is going to go through the roof antenna, and it's also got a built-in booster to amplify that signal. So the FM radio should work. I say should. I guess there's one way to find out. And to do this, we've got to basically remove the center console, or we've certainly got to remove all of that to give us access to the screws on the bottom here. We've got to pop the start button out there as well. And then you can see we've popped this side out already. Got some Torx bits, and then this will all come forward. And with those out, we should be able to just slowly pull this stereo forward to give us access to the wiring at the back. And with the buttons disconnected, you can see that actually this now has got plenty of room to come forward to give us access to the wiring behind. So this should be a simple fix. We need one of these, which is an antenna splitter and booster. We've got the end you plug your antenna into. We've got this little booster box here. That goes into the back of the stereo. We've then got that's for your DAB antenna, or that goes onto the DAB receiver rather. And then we've got a power which we connect to the live or to the antenna out on the back of the stereo. So with a £10 adapter, a bullet connector and 20 minutes worth of work. I may have just sorted one of the most annoying little niggles this car's had since I did the stereo upgrade. I mean, to be honest, the radio didn't really work very well at all because it was super glued on before I did it. So I've never actually known this car with a fully working radio. Hopefully this is going to sort it out. But before I screw it all back together, we're just going to test it to make sure that the connections are working and at least to make sure that little booster is powered. Well, we've got no digital radio reception. And as far as actual radio goes, that should be radio 1. But no. So we've got nothing. Okay, so I can't get it to work with that splitter. So we're going to use one of these, which if you've ever owned an old Volkswagen and you've changed the stereo like a Mark IV Golf, then you've probably fitted one of these. So I know these work. This is an auto leads one, so this should, yeah, this should work. This is no AliExpress stuff. This is a brand that I've used before. I'm not happy with it, but it's better-ish. So I just can't get radio reception. I don't know what it is. I used to get one. So I don't know, maybe where the old antenna was leaking and maybe it's a bit corroded in the antenna connectors. I don't know, something isn't working and we're not getting an FM signal. But the DAB signal seems to be better where I've disconnected it, reconnected it, tightened everything up. So that's a bit of a win. So we've got DAB and of course it's got Android Auto, it's got CarPlay. I guess I'm just a bit frustrated because it's not perfect, but it's a £700 Mondeo and I've got to remind myself of that. It's not going to be perfect. But again, I just want this car to be right. But again, I've just got to just not be emotionally attached to it and say, you know what else do you expect for £700? It's not going to be perfect. So I just need to screw this stereo back in and then we're done. I'll clean the inside and I'll give it another clean outside at a later date. But as for this video today, this Mondeo is done. So let's go and have a look at the X-Type and I'll show you exactly what I've bought for it and what the plan is. And this is the Mondeo's replacement. It's a 2008 Jaguar X-Type that I dragged out of a field where it had been sat abandoned for the last 2 years. Have I done anything to it since we last saw it? No. But you guys really seem to like this car. And in the comments, there was so much positivity about this car. The majority of you were saying, Tim, you should fix it, get it back on the road. But of course, there were some people who genuinely just don't like this old Jag. I mean, there's one particular comment that sprung to mind. Let's have a look. So it's from someone called Jack. And Jack said, dear God, no, not another piece of shit car, cheap, that turned out to be a piece of shit car that cost a fortune to repair. And then Jack asked me to make love to him. Sorry, Jack, I am spoken for. And it's nice of you to think that I've got a fortune to spend on this car. But the truth is, I'm going to try and repair this for 50 quid and half a Twix. Or as close to that as I can get. But I have, in fact, started spending money on this car already. So let's have a look at what I've spent, what I've got in store for this car. And yeah, I think we can make this car nice. We can make it a good replacement for the Mondeo, but it's going to take some work to do that. Now, some of you might have realized since the last video, we've got some different wheels on this, but don't worry, I've not gone and blown the budget on a new set of wheels before even fixing the car. No, in fact, these were some wheels that I bought to put on the Mondeo. I picked them up super cheap on Facebook Marketplace, but the reason they're on the Jag is because I've taken the wheels and tires off of this to swap the tires with the Mondeo. So the tires on this were from 2002 and they were fairly decent. So it's not like they needed changing. But I thought, seeing as I'd only just put a fresh set of tyres on the Mondeo, it seems silly letting them go with the Mondeo when actually I could probably do with them on this car. So I've swapped the tyres over, the wheels need to go back on, but I have spent £6 on some red centre caps from AliExpress. In the last video, there are a couple of you that mentioned in the comments that it might be a battery low voltage issue causing me problems with the injection system. So I've spent £90 on a new battery. Unfortunately, it's still got those same issues. And looking at the injectors, I think it's more likely that we've got an injector that's stuck open than a faulty fuel pump because, well, it could be a faulty fuel pump, but at the end of the day, the injector seems the easier option. And when we did a really crude leak off test or leak down test or whatever you call it, when we leaked the diesel out of the injectors, we could see that we clearly had one that was not behaving as it should. And so in the boot, we've got some goodies. Yeah, so first of all, we can see that, well, you can't hide it. We've got a pair of lower arms because we've got some play in the ball joints. So it made sense to do that. But as far as the injector problem goes, I've picked up a tested second-hand fuel injector for £50 off of eBay. I'm going to need to code it in with the scanner. We've got the code there, but hopefully that's going to sort my running issue and we're going to stop going into limp mode. It's going to stop dying and we're going to get that fuel pressure back in the rail. So with that injector fitted, we can test the fuel pressure before and after, and hopefully that's sorted. But anyway, that was 50 quid. And to change the injector, I need to take the rocker cover off. So while I'm there, I've got a new rocker cover gasket, I've got some new injector seals, and I've got some little seals that go on the top of the rocker cover as well. So that little kit there was £20. So that on top of the injector, hopefully we can get that problem fixed for £70. Then we've got these lower arms. As I said, I've got a dodgy ball joint, if not two. So £56, we've got that replacement there. And then of course, we've got £6 for the centre caps on the original Jaguar wheels as well. And then I've got that ABS problem, which scanning it says it is this wheel sensor here. So I've got a pair of ABS sensors because it was £7 for one or £10 for a pair delivered. So I thought, hey, let's get a spare. So £10 later, the budget's starting to add up. And of course, we put a new battery on this as well, and that was £90. Now, of course, it looks great, but it's got those plastic seal covers on that are hiding a nasty surprise. Yeah, there's some welding to do on either side, so I'm gonna have to sort that out. I don't know how I'm gonna budget for that. I can borrow a welder, so I'm gonna give it a go myself, maybe with a bit of guidance from Sam, but hopefully the welding, if I can do it myself, is gonna be a relatively cheap fix. But I've never welded before, so it could go horribly wrong, so we might have to keep some money in reserve for that. And then with all that done, this could be a really good replacement for the Mondeo. And I know there's going to be some comments, yes, Tim, you're replacing a Mondeo with a Mondeo. But look, it's tried and tested. Of course, these things are based on a Ford Mondeo, but that's no bad thing, right? Because the 2-litre Mondeo was amazing. And because Mark III Mondeos were everywhere, it means there's so many parts available that are mass produced. And of course, they're really cheap. So you're not paying that Jaguar premium for parts because you're buying parts that were designed for a Ford Mondeo. The Mondeo has 222,000 miles on it. So the Jaguar should be a step up. I mean, it's got what, 92,000 miles on the clock? If only that was the case. No, it turns out that, that this car's been clocked, if you can believe it. Yeah, so I don't know that it's actually been maliciously done. But at some point in the car's life, it's gone from around 90,000 miles right back down to, I'm assuming, 0, because the next MOT has got 13,000 miles on it. So I'm guessing maybe the cluster failed and it was just swapped out for a blank replacement maybe. Or yeah, back in the day, someone just got a bit fruity with the mileage. I don't know, I'll let you guys decide. But that means that actually this thing has got around 190,000 miles on it, which, now, when you think about it, it kind of makes sense looking at the condition of some of the things on this, because I've looked at other Jags and things like the steering wheel. If you look here, we've got a bunch of wear on this steering wheel, and for 90,000 miles, you wouldn't expect to see it. But I didn't buy this car because I thought it had 92,000 miles on it. No, like a magpie, I saw it abandoned in a field and I just swept in and picked it up. So the mileage, at 92,000 miles, I was a little bit excited. I thought, what a deal. But actually, never mind. It's one of those things. It's an old used car that's been driven. So, of course, we've got things like the tensioner that is rattling its tits off. We've got the bottom pulley is kind of egg-shaped. So again, all of those things kind of make you think at this sort of mileage, that's probably right. And that's why those things need changing. So, mechanically, that's where we are. We've got this thing booked in for an MOT on the 4th of, no, not on the 4th, on the 3rd of June. So I've got a day less than I thought. So this is booked in on the 3rd of June for an MOT. So I've got a couple of weeks to get this work done. And with that done, it should be a really good replacement for the Mondeo. Obviously, we've got this full black leather interior that has the air of luxury around it. We've got the piano black dash, and again, it just looks really classy. We've got the black and chrome dials. Then we've got the stereo. Now, of course, the Mondeo has got Apple CarPlay, so I've got sat-nav, Spotify, everything that you get with Apple CarPlay. This does not. This has a Jaguar stereo from the mid-2000s. So that's got to go if I want to use this as a daily. So of course, I'm going to look at cheap Android head unit options for this car. I've seen a couple out there, whether I go for a complete replacement or maybe I just fit a cheap double din. I really want to keep the budget down on this because I haven't got a lot to spend. So once it's running, obviously that's the first thing to sort, but then I want to make this something that I can live with on the daily. Something else I think this car would benefit from is parking sensors, both front and rear, because as you can see, the previous owner, well, they definitely could have done with some. But for me, it's just a nice to have. It makes the car feel a little bit more modern. So it'll be really nice to get a cheap parking sensor upgrade to put into the back of this. And maybe into the front as well. Who knows? We'll see what's in the budget. But yeah, definitely I think parking sensors is something I might want to tackle on this car. And then as we look around the outside, other than a good tidy up, maybe I'm going to try and fix this paintwork if I can. I'll see if I can give that a go myself. But otherwise, again, I think this car looks really good. I'm not a fan of the black wheels I've put on it, but what I will say is the offset on these makes them stick out a little bit further, and they really do fill the arches quite nicely. Even if the front bumper's hanging off, yeah, we'll get around to that too. So again, further down the line, maybe I want to get these wheels reconditioned and I'll have them done in a different colour. Maybe a nice gunmetal grey would look good against this. I'm not sure that a bright silver would be good on these wheels, but let me know what you think, guys. Should I get these wheels refurbed? It's only about 150 quid if I take them up to Birmingham. And again, I think they fill the arches really nicely. Certainly a lot better than the original Jaguar wheels. And then with all that done, this could be a really good replacement for the Mondeo. But for now, I need to get this into the barn and get this thing ready so that we can start working. So what do you think? Would you swap the Mondeo for a £300 Jaguar? Well, guys, I'm looking forward to finding out how good this Jag's going to be, and hopefully it's not going to break the bank repairing it. And if you haven't seen the video where I dragged this Jag out of field, take a look at it right here. But anyway, guys, like the video, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you on the next one.